Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. Today I wanted to talk about the paradigm shift that's associated with world peace. And I've talked about this before, but not recently. People look at the idea of world peace and they think it's so huge and it's impossible to come. And basically, we've all pretty much turned our lives over to the other people like the governments or the United Nations and hoping that they can bring world peace. But it's so frustrating because it never comes. There's no way that the governments are ever going to do that. The only way that world peace can come is for the planet, for mankind to make a paradigm shift. And basically today, that's what we're talking about all the remarkable ideas associated with this paradigm shift. It happens on an individual level, it happens on a government level, it even happens on a galactic level. So we're going to talk about all the different levels associated with that today. And this is going to be one of the most probably interesting things that you'll hear about for a long time. Our organization is made up of 200 different independent members, and we're all parallel to a country. So if we can bring world peace within ourselves, then world peace can happen on the bigger side level of it. We are what's known as a soul group. We've come together on the spiritual level before we were born, and we decided that we wanted to work to introduce a plan for world peace and open it up for debate and be the first people to help to make it happen. If it's like we are a microcosm of the whole world. The United States is also a microcosm of the whole world because we have all these different cultures, because we are a melting pot of different cultures rather than the other countries are all pretty much more they've brought in other cultures, but we have cultures from all over the world living in the United States. Okay. We all have a racial purpose, we all have a group purpose, and we all have an individual purpose. So we're talking about all the different levels being part of this idea. Okay. So world peace requires a paradigm shift in our thinking. And a paradigm shift, we're talking about different dimensions. We're talking about the earth is making its ascension. Individuals are making our ascensions too. When we talk about making our ascension, we're going, the mathematicians look at it and say the dimensions are a point, a line, and then a diagram, a third dimensional diagram, and then time comes in and all these things. But that's works with math and drawing pictures and things like that. But it's not how the spiritual dimensions work. The spiritual dimensions are frequency and this paradigm shift. So we're going to talk about it today. Okay, the third dimension. Okay, so let's say that we are in a crisis and we go along for a period of time thinking that what we're doing is working, and then it goes down and we go into the abyss. If we turn our lives over to somebody else, eventually we reach the point where we come to the understanding that it's not working. The Republican Party, for example, is in crisis right now because they've turned their lives over to Donald Trump to make America great again. Okay, how do you define great? How do you define? I see some glitches in that idea. Because by turning your life over to somebody else, at some point in time, you understand that you don't have the same goals, and then you go different directions. You realize that person doesn't have the capacity to help you do that. How about if Donald Trump is only able to get a 50% approval rating and he can't make it? He's done some things that are illegal and he can't become president again. Does that mean America can't be great again? You have to be responsible for your own your own life. You have to, at some point in time, if you don't take it back, then you think you can't get your life, and that's when people die. So what we have now is people are going like this, and we're going down to the crisis. And at the bottom of the abyss is the point how far down you fall, is based on the idea of when you take back responsibility for your own life and then start to create the life you want. So it's like let's say if you turn your life over to Donald Trump, these are the power games. This is the third dimension, my little drawing here. The paradigm part is the third dimension, where it's based on power games, power grabs, ideas of power games of one-upmanship, turning your life over to somebody else. And the third dimension is where, if you don't think you can get your life, that's when you die. If you have to take back responsibility for your own life. The backbone of any economy is small business. So is Donald Trump actually helping anybody to create their life, to start small businesses? No, he just says, I'm important, I'm wealthy, and if you support me, then I'm going to have and he's, we're going to get rid of the Democrats, and we're going to take power, we're going to make America great again. And then, like I said, that doesn't really necessarily make sense to a lot of people, and that's why he never had more than a 50% approval rating. And the way it's going now, there are a lot of Republicans who are not supporting him anymore because they don't like what he did. The power games are becoming evident, and they're on to his games, like those people who supported the insurrection and stormed the Capitol and are now in jail, facing 15 years in prison for what they did. Okay, and for them it was a small step, but for everybody else it was a big leap. They were supporting their president, they were doing what they thought was right to make America great again, and they believed what he had said, and then now it's time for them to realize that, see the bigger picture. The same thing happened with George W. Bush with the Iraq War. It was one small step for him to take to topple a government regime change, because it had been happening over the years. We've waged a war to gain control of natural resources and things like that, but when no weapons of mass destruction were found, it collapsed our power base. It backlashed on us. We were the nation that was supposed to be sharing democracy with the world, and we basically taking over another country and toppling them. And under universal law, would we want somebody to do that to us? No, but it's happening because it went against all those power games, go against universal law. By taking something from somebody else, you lose it. You can't keep it. It's not rightfully yours. It's basically, it goes back sooner or later. So this paradigm shift has to do with the power games, the 7 deadly sins. This is the third dimension. This is where people die when they believe they can't get their life because the games don't work anymore, or they don't know how to deal with conflict. They don't know how to deal with being sex trafficked. How do you deal with these games? How do you deal with things? Where do the rights come from? How about racism and all these ideas? So the paradigm shift is, I can't get my life by playing the games. And then when you make the shift is, I can get my life, but not by playing the games. And then, so this is third dimensional thinking. This is transitional into the fourth dimension. And this is the fifth dimension, when you're working to create the life you want. The parable of the banquet table. These are the dogs fighting for crumbs under the banquet table, and the crumbs can be pretty big. They can be pretty big. I'm reminded of that scene from Christmas Story when the dogs from next door end up with the turkey, and the people have to go to the Chinese restaurant for Christmas dinner, for duck. Okay, so you can't get your life if you are a dog and the turkey falls on you, and you feel pretty good about that. Okay, the crumbs can be pretty big, but basically they're just crumbs. They don't last. They're not. You think you can get it, but then what happens is when you reach the point when the games stop working, then you have to figure out what will work. Okay, so this is where you make your paradigm shift. I can get my life based on certain principles, but I can't get it by getting my life by playing power games. Now I'm going to tell you there's a problem associated with this, and that is there's a kind of crisis associated with this, and that is when you believe that you can get your life by playing the power games. What happens to people like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, who believe that they are going to scoop up those 73 million voters, 74 million Trump supporters, and they are going to, by scooping them up, they are going to get their life, but it's based on power games because they're basically not doing their jobs. They're grabbing for power, and they're using voter suppression, and anybody who's voting suppression, how are you going to, the only way we can win is by cheating, so we are going to cheat, and then we're going to hope everybody has bad memories. Hey, that doesn't work. You don't, if you support an insurrection, you can't run for office again, and that's why they have that constitutional law associated with that. So there's kind of like a paradigm shift here. Now, when you get to the point where you are creating the life you want, basically this is like an evolutionary process too, over 20 years, where you're going from the old idea to the new idea, and that is to find your niche and to based on the principles of the cooperation of nature. And that is, okay, I'm going to share with you something here. Okay, I have my niche. I have I'm a psychic. I'm a channel. My gift from God is to be able to communicate with anyone on the other side. I'm utterly amazed that every time I run into something, it's based on me doing my project. The only problem with it is that it's hard to get other people to do it, because I'm one of the first people to come up here and share my information. I'm sharing it with you free, basically on YouTube, but basically everybody else, the 200 people, are all fighting for the crumbs under the banquet table. There's people who have started to come up, but the power games are so oppressive that they're saying, well, we're going to take over the organization, just like what's happening with the world leaders. We have people out there who are behind ISIS, world leaders who are behind ISIS. We are like Russia and the military buildup and cyber attacks and taking over our infrastructure, that the pipeline attack. We have the Russians and the Chinese. They're all jockeying for power on the government level, on the international level. Okay, so that's what's happening. We are parallel to the 200 countries, but nobody's really ready to work together. It's all basically revenge and backed into the corner, and some of the people are in crisis and they're trying to figure out how to get out of the crisis. Some of the people have actually died, and because of this power game, and it's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to see people do that when all they have to do is make this paradigm shift. Okay, now what's happening here on the international level is, like I said, there's this here, if we are looking at people who believe they can get their life by getting revenge on people. I'm going to become president of the United States, and all I have to do is suppress the votes. That doesn't work. But then what happens is I can get my life but I can't get my life by playing the games. Okay? Now, then the paradigm shift is I am getting my life. So let's say this. So let's say that when enough people realize that they can't get their life and they're open to figuring out what it is, they've hit the bottom of the abyss and they're going, I have to do something, but I don't know what to do, but I have to do something, but I don't know what to do, but I have to do something. It's like a circular thinking pattern. And then what they're doing is they're going, okay, how about if you weigh 800 pounds and you have to do something but you don't know what to do? For a while you go along and you just keep gaining weight and you're just miserable, and then you come to the understanding, hey, I better do something because my doctor tells me I'm going to die if I don't. Okay, I have to do something. Am I going to die? Am I going to do something? Okay, I have to turn my life over to somebody else to help me, but I don't know who to do it to. So you have to work. This is where like a 12-step program comes in. Okay, so now what we're doing here is we're going to, with each of our government proposals, we are going to work first to help, let's say, the U.S. government is like the melting pot idea of cultures, and the idea has been open to debate. People have turned their lives over to Donald Trump. He can't do it. He turned their life over maybe to Joe Biden. It's all on basically our shoulders now to help to start to make this paradigm shift and to start assuming responsibility and not to play the games. This point is where you assume responsibility and you start to function to create your own life. You are making another paradigm shift that you are creating your life. So let's say that I cannot get my life by playing the power games. I can't get my I went into the abyss just like everybody else. I went around the corner. I can't get my life by playing power games. And now I have to figure out how to get my life. I have to work on my project that benefits everyone. And then I have to go around and actually create the life that I want. Now, this is like the banquet table. Like I said, these are like dogs under the banquet table. These are the beings who are basically making the transition from dog to make understanding they can't do it. Let's say that these are the people who are the alcoholics. These are the people who are going to Alcoholics Anonymous. And these are the people who realize that none of their friends anymore. They've evolved out of being an alcoholic and everybody around them. They're no longer there. They are creating the life they want again. And this is the paradigm shift that we're all going to be going through. The first idea, each of our government proposals, it has to do with has a place like a country. There's 200 plates set here on the table. And the first plate is the United States. And let's say then the other one is together with England. Okay? And the reason for it is this was the Iraq War, the exit strategy for Iraq. So Tony Blair and George W. Bush got together and they invaded Iraq. So what we have to do to get the United States up here to make America great again is we have to find our niche, that what makes us an individual, unique from everybody else. What makes the United States unique? We're a melting pot for one thing, but basically, and that allows us to be like a microcosm for the world, and we can do that. But what made us a melting pot is our Constitution. People saw the United States as the place where people can follow the American dream. People can get their life. You know, they left the old country because the games that were so oppressive, and then they came here and they said, I can't get my life by playing these games, so I have to create my own life. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to live the life that I've always wanted. Okay, then they got here and things didn't work out very well because people were telling the Irish to go home, and then the Jews to go home, and then the Italians, and then the Chinese to go home and go home. We're Americans, and technically we're a melting pot of all these different cultures and religions, and basically our experiment has worked. Okay, it's a paradigm shift. Okay, now, so as each of our government proposals comes, there's a place on the banquet table for each of them, but each of them is a lesson that allows the United States to come out of the paradigm shift. We can't turn world peace over to the UN because basically the charter has problems to it. We can't get. So what will work is when we start to figure out what our niche is, and then we make win-win agreements with other people. I have been working, like I said, I've been working on coming up here. I've made it up here. I have my project. I'm still kind of like, the problem that I have is I have to make win-win agreements with people who haven't made their ascension yet. I met a man, I had a book, and I thought I could get my life on a higher level. I was in poverty. I went into the abyss, and then what I did was I started to come out of it and to create my small business based on my publishing business, based on my niche, on my individual niche. And then I started my small business based on my books, and also the organization, like the queen bee coming down and setting this together, because this is how nature works. This is the function based on the principles of cooperation nature. They're already up here. They're already functioning based on making win-win agreements. Okay, it doesn't necessarily look like that. From the perspective of third-dimensional being, it's a dog-eat-dog world. But from the perspective of Leonardo da Fibonacci and the Fibonacci numbers, it's the principles of the cooperation of nature up here. Okay, so that's the idea of the Fibonacci numbers, the Vesica Pisces, the flower of life idea. Actually, it should be a little bit more even. Okay, so we are, the only thing that God hasn't created is our nature, and now it's time for our nature to be equal to where we create a sense of prosperity in the world. The principles of the cooperation of nature has created a sense of prosperity, for everyone, in abundance, and it's worked perfectly for years and years and years, thousands of years, billions of years. When you look out at a meadow, I have outside my door, I have what I call my meadow, but it's actually a vacant lot it's covered with weeds, but it's covered with wildflowers, and I go out there and I watch, and it's the most remarkable thing. You take one flower and you can get up to hundreds and thousands of seeds at any one time, well, not thousands, but so when you take one flower and it's functioning based on the principles, it goes out, those seeds go out, and they multiply. My meadow out here has been plowed over, and within just a few days there's already new plants growing, and then it goes through this most remarkable series of cycles. I love it out there. I grow dandelions just so the bees can be out there and have something to work on. I love my bees, and I love my meadow. I even have stickers out there, and one of my books talks about stickers and how to come up with new technologies based on the principles of nature. Okay, so when everybody is functioning from their niche, so what is the niche of the United States? Our Constitution. It sets us apart. It's unique from everybody else, and basically it has allowed our country to create a sense of abundance, because people are coming in and saying to old timers, people have been here, our families have been here for a long time, they're saying this is where the opportunity is. Where we were, there was no opportunity, but here there's opportunity. Okay, so that's where it is. The government proposals go like this, but everybody is making the same paradigm shift, that the games grabbing for power doesn't work. Okay, what does work is you can get your life, but you can't get it by playing the games. And then when you start to create your life, this is fifth dimensional thinking. Okay, then go to sixth and seventh and eighth, like the Fibonacci spiral, and it goes. The Fibonacci numbers goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Okay, so if you draw that out, it goes like this. So now I'm going to tell you that when you make a win-win agreement, it actually goes this way, it goes this way, and it goes this way. Now, this is the Vesica Pisces down here. These are the different ideas that the Fibonacci numbers are making win-win agreements. You have a life partner, you make a win-win agreement with that person, and that person enables you to create a family relationship. You make a win-win agreement with God, the Creator, when you stand on the principles of universal law, and you fulfill your purpose in life, which is why we were born, to fulfill our purpose in life. Okay, so when we believe we can't get fulfill our purpose in life, that's when we die. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're looking at all of these ideas, and each time that we make a win-win agreement, it's like energy goes off. Now you may not believe this, but that's okay. You can believe anything you want. Okay, when you watch a Star Wars movie, for example, or you're sitting in the Millennium Falcon with Han Solo, and you go to, let's say, or Star Trek, you go to warp speed, and then all of a sudden all the stars go like this, and then you're going faster than the speed of light, right? It doesn't work that way, because basically there is a paradigm shift. Aliens in their spacecraft, they go like this, and then they make a paradigm shift, and then they disappear, right? Why do they disappear? They're there. They disappear because we can't see. We are third dimensional beings, and they're making this paradigm shift. So an alien, when they're taking off, they go like this, and then they make this shift. Star Wars got it all wrong. They don't have that paradigm shift. If you rely on Elon Musk to take us to Mars, for example, I hate to say it, but it's not going to work. You cannot travel there and figure out how to do that. I channeled a book with that where we retro-engineer an alien space drive, and it's based on this idea of making these shifts. The engine actually makes the shift. So if this occurs, let's say that an alien, let's say that we have an international government and all the countries are working together, what will happen is the aliens have to come and they have to deal with the idea that we are part of the galaxy and we are being invited into the Galactic Federation, so to speak. Okay, if one alien ship comes, even a mothership comes onto the Earth and makes contact with one nation, basically, why are they doing that? If they are going to make a win-win agreement with, say, the United States and give us technology, alien technology, then basically what happens is it's designed to unravel things. Okay, an example of this, and you don't, like I said, you don't have to believe this, was the civilization of Atlantis that was many thousands of years ago. And what happened was the aliens had come and given the Atlanteans the crystalline form of technology, and they can they could fly, they could power their spaceships with that idea. This crystal was able to power that. So some of the thinking has already come back. The only problem with that was that the Atlanteans weren't evolved enough, hadn't made this paradigm shift. They were third dimensional beings, so to speak, who basically took that technology and they used it as a weapon instead of a force of everybody benefiting everyone. That's why the international government has to be in place for this to happen, is because we have to be unified. We have to solve our problems on the earth before we can make the paradigm shift. So the plan for the international government actually allows the nations to start to come together to make this whole unified earth one world government. And we're starting to do it on the individual level, where like me going through and making my paradigm shift, then everybody else can do it too. The people who are caught here are going to they're going to run into problems because they think they can get their life, and they're going to become more and more mentally ill, you can say, by doing that. More and more ludicrous. They're going to be saying more and more ludicrous things to do that because they think they can get their life by doing it. It's like thinking that you can get your life by being a drug addict. Okay, I'm getting my life because I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of drug addicts and we're all getting our life. It doesn't work that way. You cannot do that. It doesn't work. So if you understand how this idea of the shift works, what happens is you have an alien that's coming and then making an agreement with one country. The technology that's being introduced is going to enable our government, our country, to be the most powerful nation on the planet, and we're going to punish anybody that doesn't listen to us and go along with our idea. Okay, that's what tore apart the planet and what caused a couple of continents to sink, because that alien technology was like a giant laser that they aimed right through the planet, and that's why it sunk. Okay, but the same thing happened with the aliens. There are 80, according to my guides, there are 80 alien species on the planet right now. And why are they on the planet? Maybe because they made these one government connections, or they're playing third dimensional games, and they can't make that shift to get off the planet and disappear. They might be able to get for a little distance, but where are they going to go? What happens if you are a slave, you've been enslaved, you run away? I can get my life by running away north, but what happens if you get north and they're sending you back? Okay, the games, there has to be a place to go, a structure in place where people can go. Okay, so that's how this idea works. Everybody on the individual level is making this paradigm shift. Okay, we're fulfilling our purpose in life. We're finding a niche. I'm going to share with you something that I've been working on, making the win-win agreement. I am a psychic. I can channel, and I can channel information. I can talk to anybody on the other side. Okay, I've been dealing with people that have been harassing me for a long time, but I can channel anybody. My gift from God is to channel. By them interfering, they lose their gift. Okay, so I have not been able to make win-win agreements with people for a while. But so what happened is I am working on my business, and I have to make win-win agreements with people. I'm not a computer programmer. I read HTML for Dummies, and I came up with that. Now I have a new proposal, or a new not a proposal, a program that helps me, an open source program that requires me to understand certain programming languages. HTML is not the same thing as these programming languages. So I've been spending days trying to figure out how this works. I am forced to do things that are outside of my niche. I need to be able to make a win-win agreement with people to get what I need. And right now, people refuse to work together. People are getting revenge on each other. They're shooting each other. I don't like you, so I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to kill you. All these shootings that are happening based on illusion. It's all an illusion. When you step out of that idea and you're looking for somebody, sometimes it takes a while for enough people to come through here, for the people who are doing the shooting, for the people who are trying to control and manipulate. This is why over in the United States, like the Republicans are grabbing for power and they're doing all these games. And so what's happening here now, this first exit strategy for Iraq is based on the idea of where true power comes from. Does it come from having a bigger military than somebody else, being able to shoot somebody? I'm going to go into a mall and shoot a whole bunch of people. That gives me a lot of power. No, it demonstrates lack of power. So, in other words, what we have is this weird idea where people are doing weird things and silly things, and they think that it's going to work, like storming the Capitol to become president of the United States again. You know, that's the power symbol, isn't it? And basically, that demonstrates a lack of power. You can't get your life by playing power games. Okay? You have to make this paradigm shift. And like I said, when the aliens take off, they make their paradigm shift. And if they can't make their paradigm shift, that's when they crash. So we're looking at all of these ideas, and we're looking at where we are as a planet, and we're looking at lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson. And when the conference in Europe comes and all the world leaders who are willing to show up because they went into the abyss and they're starting to come out again because they realized they couldn't play the games, and they're willing to work together on this plan for world peace, then what will happen is that they will all become advocates for this information. That's what our progress planning is. This idea of the paradigm shift. We always have our three choices: up, down, or straight ahead. Down is to go backwards in our evolution. Up is to go this way, to work together to create this. If I want to do something based on my gut program, I either have to do it myself, or I have to find somebody, and I don't know if I can find anybody. So I waste my time. Basically, everybody's wasting their time doing jobs that they really don't want to do. And you can't get your life by doing a job that you really don't want to do. You have to make the win-win agreements. And it's a very remarkable person who is willing to do that. The only problem is, who are you going to work with? Are you going to work if Donald Trump is president of the United States? Is he working with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping? And that we're not going to let this international government come about because we are going to be the three top people. And what happens if Donald Trump is being compromised by the Russians and the Chinese, and they're playing the games on that level? Because they're just people too. Okay, so it all comes to everybody, each of us making this paradigm shift. And then what will happen is, as we do that and we create this international government, then we can go out into the stars and we can have a space drive to take us interdimensionally. We have to learn how to travel interdimensionally, and people are already starting to do that. Okay? This is how you're like the Millennium Falcon, and this is how you do it on the personal level. Is you realize you cannot get your life by playing the games, like a recovering alcoholic. You're an alcoholic. You cannot get your life by drinking alcohol. Then you have to figure out how. The second part of the journey is figuring out how to get up there. That's when you come up with a plan with your niche. If this doesn't work, what will? Okay, is it working with Putin? Is it working with Xi Jinping? What happens if the President of the United States is working with an adversary? He's backwards. He's not working with U.S. intelligence. He's working with Russian intelligence. And you see what I mean? Who are you going to ask to help to make your win-win agreement? And that's why we have to start making this idea. The way you know is about universal law. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Is somebody getting revenge? Or is somebody standing on the principles of universal law? Because our first and most important relationship, is a win-win agreement, Vesica Pisces with Lady Gaia, and I am that I am. This is the free power source invention mock-up, It'll take a while before it's actually an invention with the three working together. The intuitive computer works with this too, and basically it's a matter of choices. It leads you through the choices to help you understand how to get your power back and how to create this burst of energy that brings people together. I'm not going to go into that today. I've said enough. Right now, this is how to make the world great again. How to get out to the stars. Are we going to work with Elon Musk? Can he help us get out to the stars, or is he going to, let's say, come up with a bunch of people who really want to play the idea of Star Wars? How about Donald Trump's Space Force? Are we taking conflicts out into space so that we can fight Russia and China out into space? Do we have to have a space race? How about Star Wars? Do you want to send your sons and daughters out into space to fight Russia? Why don't we just do it on the Earth? Come up with a way to do it with the international government. Okay, how about Elon Musk? How about if he doesn't have a space drive that goes interdimensionally like the aliens? And maybe he's going to do that, come up with a space drive, but right now he's kind of on the track of coming up with a really fast thing to get us to Mars. Is that what we need on Mars to be able to go internationally? Don't the aliens take off from here? Okay, so think about all these things. Like, share, and subscribe, but most of all share, because this is information that needs to get out for people to be able to make their ascension, for people to be able to make it up to the point where they are creating the life they want. Okay. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening.